I feel like we were the like spokespeople for like the power of positive thinking and manifestation. Like I remember when you got super into it and you like bought the book
Oh my
and
God.
like watched the movie, or was it a show on Netflix?
The movie.
The movie, and then you were like, you have to watch it, and then I watched it. And even now, I find that like everybody to some extent is like on this like thing of manifestation and like the power of thinking things into reality. Like anybody, whether they're like those people on Instagram or TikTok that are like, I achieved this and you can do it too by writing it down 5 times in your diary every day or whatever. But I think we have learned so much about it. And it's so interesting for me that we're doing this episode. And I'm so excited about it because I think that it's so, I don't want to say it's different, but it's like, it's really, we've learned so much about it and can like actually like unpack it for what it is. And I'm so excited about that.
I do remember discovering this. I literally thought I came across some like I literally thought I came across a secret that I've like uncovered and it was God's given gift. And I remember just like preaching it to every single person I met. Like people would be like, "Hi, nice to meet you." Like, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Nadine. Have you read The Secret? It will change your life." And I
You're like,
just
I'm Lebanese and have you read The Secret?
I'm
Two
that's
things you need to know.
that's all you need to know. And I specifically remember when I got you on it and we were both like, "Wow, I
Yeah.
feel enriched." And so to look back on it now, and especially after the last 2 years with a different perspective, it just it like feels better for where I am today. And then also it like I kind of can unpack where I was when I got so into it, if that makes sense, like a little bit
Yeah.
of self-reflection.
Yeah.
But you it started because you sent me this like post on Instagram and it just completely changed my mind.
Mhm. Well, so I think a big part of why we specifically, in our own time and in our own way, got so into like The Secret and like whatever is because it gives you a feeling of it gives you a feeling of control during a time when you feel like things are out of control.
Yeah.
And I think that that is what has drawn so many people into it to begin with, because it just feels like you can like you literally have the power. Like I know that sounds like insane, but it like makes you feel empowered that you have the power to like have control over a situation, whatever it might be, um, in like a time when otherwise you wouldn't. And I feel like a big part of it is like for me, what I was when I was kind of like reflecting on it is like it was my anxiety talking. It's like my anxiety trying to be like, or a way that I guess I would like calm my anxiety, but it would be like, you have control over this situation, therefore don't be anxious about it. Or like it was my anxiety being like, oh, but don't worry, like you can whatever, like you can like manifest, not literally manifest because it sounds like I'm like gonna do like a spell, but it's like I'm like gonna like manifest this thing into reality. Do you know what I
But that
mean?
yes, but that literally at one point was what we were trying to do. Like I
I know.
think with what you're saying, it got to a point where I think it was also a way I didn't really finish my thought, but this kind of goes in with it, which is it was a way for us to avoid having to actually deal with the very difficult things that were happening in
Yeah.
our lives. I'm like laughing because I actually know exactly how this even came up for us, but
Yeah.
which we won't talk about. But I I just remember it kind of being like, okay, like it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine because I'm gonna like my thoughts are gonna become my reality, and my reality
Yeah.
is the complete opposite of what
That
where I
I'm
am
in
right
right now.
now.
Yeah. And that's like literally your anxiety like speaking. And I feel like it's the same way when sometimes you say things like everything happens for a reason. It's like a
Yeah.
very reassuring thought, but at the end of the day, like it's this idea that I like go back and forth on a lot, where it's this idea of like you are like owed something by like the universe.
Mhm.
Like everything happens for a reason. But it's like no, like some things just happen because they happen. Like, and it doesn't have to mean this like big grand thing in like the scheme of your life. Like it can just
Yeah.
be a thing that happened that did or did not work out. And it just is what it is. Like, you know, and
Yeah.
I find that while I used to find comfort in being like, everything happens for a reason, like there is some reason behind this. Like I am moving towards what I am meant for,
Mhm.
which I still kind of believe, which is why it's conflicting. I
Yeah.
think it's also freeing to be like, but you know what? Things just happen and you make decisions all the time. And surely good things can come out of bad things. And surely it feels like sometimes things are like meant for you, but everything doesn't have to have a reason or a purpose or like a higher whatever behind it, or like this thing that I have like manifested, like I'm manifesting this life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%. And I feel like I understand what you mean because I'm also the same. Like when we were talking about this topic and like bringing it up on our episode, my perspective was like, well, I shifted my focus from thinking that my thoughts create negative events, even though I still believe that your thoughts can create positive events. So it is very conflicting because like to some extent
Yeah.
I do believe in fate, but I also think that I've just romanticized it for so
Yeah.
many years that I'm conditioned to think that like things will work out in your favor. But it's not always the case. Like shit happens. The last 2 years we've been in a pandemic.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
we collect I don't think we
Like, did we
collectively
manifest
manifest
coronavirus?
ourselves. Yeah, I don't think we collectively manifested ourselves in the middle of a global crisis. But I think that there's lessons to learn from every life experience and then you evolve from it. And it's exactly like you said, like sometimes things just happen.
Yeah, and that's just it. And I think like a big part of why people think that manifestation works as well as it does, or like the power of positive thinking works as well as it does, is because it's essentially goal setting. Like, I don't know, like have you seen that video? I think it's like of Jim Carrey, I think. And he's like, I wrote this check for like $1 million or something, and I put it in my wallet, and I whatever, like kept doing what I was doing to try to become an actor. And then like a week later, and I had like put a date on the check. And then like on that date, which was, I don't know, a week later or like however long after, I like booked a role for $1 million. And I
I
was
had
like,
sorry, I gave you like a very long pause.
no, that's okay. No, I thought you were going to say something,
Oh no.
but have you seen that video?
I don't I don't think so, but I have heard of people doing this where they like write an
Yeah.
imaginary check.
And it's like, you can't just do that. And then because you like wrote this check and you like believe you're going to get $1 million, the world is like, all right, here's $1 million. It's like, it's literally a goal that you have set. And then you continue to work towards it. Like he
Yeah.
kept going to auditions. He kept like working with his agent, I'm assuming, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah, which led to this. And I feel like the more I like unpack or like listen to people be like, I manifested this into my life, it's like, no, you didn't. You either think about this as a goal that you want, and so you act in accordance with said goal.
Yeah.
Therefore, you achieve said goal, or you say like you say or think about things that you want to do, and then you're more open to those experiences when they come up.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's, like in that article that or not article, it was like an Instagram post that I sent you. A lot of the things that they talk about are like how the power of positive thinking is ableist, for example. And I, at the beginning of this episode, was talking about how for me, it's like, it was like a response to my anxiety. And as I have learned to let go and like deal with my anxiety better, I can also learn, or I can also recognize that this like whole power of positive thinking is like not entirely what it's sold to be.
Mhm.
But I think about how people have intrusive thoughts. Like,
Yeah.
have you ever heard about that, right? Like
Yeah.
how people have intrusive thoughts, whether it's about um harming people or harming themselves or whatever it might be, whatever type
Mhm.
of intrusive thought it might be. But it's not as though those thoughts are reality.
Yeah.
So then, like, are you saying that are you, the power of positive thinking would then say that those like you're going to manifest that because you're thinking it so much.
Yeah,
I was like, no.
it's too, and I think this is what the post explains as well, which we should actually, now I'm thinking out loud, like link it in our episode
Yeah.
description.
Yeah.
Um, is that it encourages people to take it too literally. There's
Yeah.
no like open for interpretation. They
Yeah.
literally say
There is
anytime.
no open for interpretation.
No, there are like take what we say verbatim and nothing else. There was a scene in the movie where where there's this guy, and I think they're giving an example of how your thoughts can turn into your reality. And they were talking about how like if you focus on what you want, you'll get it. But if you like steer away from that, then you will get what you're thinking of. And so they give this example of a guy in his living room and he thinks of a sports car. And so he gets his sports car. And then all of a sudden his mind switches and he thinks of a big elephant. And all of a sudden there's this like big elephant in the like it sounds so ridiculous, but as someone who is watching, you're
Yeah.
thinking, oh my God, I can
can't
only
think of
think
an elephant.
positively and nothing else. I have to turn myself into a robot. New year, new me, as in like I'm no longer human. I'm a robot. No thoughts except positivity. Like I think that's where also toxic positivity comes from
Yes,
too.
absolutely.
So it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And like if you think about it too, like if your situation is entirely created by your thoughts that you like think of and write down every day, isn't that also, it's like a, it's like classist in ways, like it's a different type of privilege, because then are you saying that people who, for example, experience war manifested themselves being in like a situation in which they're in their state is in war, or if they live in poverty, or are you saying that everybody who, for example, faces racism thought
Wants it. Oh my God, I think you are frozen. Our internet literally cut off as we were going deep into talking shit about The Secret.
yeah. No,
Rhonda Byrne was like,
I don't think so. Like, I don't fucking think so. But did we think it, believe it, whatever, see it happen? Did we manifest our reality of bad internet, Belle? No, I didn't. That was you.
She was like, they're exposing the real secret in that this is bullshit. So I need to cease and desist right now through the universe.
Wild.
Okay.
Anyways, where did I cut out?
We were talking about people who experience racism don't manifest it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to confirm, in case anybody had any doubt, they don't. Anyways, all in all, I think that the point that I was like really trying to make is that the idea that you manifest everything in your life is, I think, to an extent true. Like, for example, if you always focus on the positive, like you will be in like a more positive frame of mind, or when you like approach things, which might lead you to make better decisions because you're not so much under stress. But it's not like, I think it's not so much like if I manifest if I think every day I'm going to get $1 million, I'm just going to sit around and get $1 million. It's like you have to, it's more, I feel like it works more in like the sense of goal setting, where you think like, I want to get a job where I make that much money. Okay, what type of jobs can I do that make that much money? Blah, 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 working towards it.
100%.
Because otherwise it literally is like, I don't know, it sounds insane, but then also millions of people buy into it. And like, when the pandemic started, I started working out. Like I started doing those Melissa Wood health workouts. I think I like told you about it. Anyways, and she was like, she still is like super, super into, I think, $1 million, like, so everybody does her workouts. And she's always like, if you believe it, like I truly manifested this, like I manifested this. And I'm like, but like, did you quote unquote manifest it? Or like, did you just like have a goal and then you like thought about how much you wanted to succeed in what you're doing, and then you like took steps towards it?
Yeah. And that's not even layering in the fact that like
of all of the other privileges of like
Yes, exactly. Yes,
wealth
exactly.
and
Yes.
race and class and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Yes, of
like
course.
the stars aligning in her favor. No, I am very conflicted because I do like the comfort of like you can, like a vision board, for example,
Yeah.
having things on your vision board and then letting that be a guiding light to the decisions that you make, I think can be very empowering. Like for example, I had a picture of a celebrity on my vision board for like, because at the time I was like, you know what, I love this show and I would love to meet this guy. And I did. And that's
And
because
then
I made a very impulsive decision to buy a meet and greet for 2 minutes. But this is besides the point. But it's like it doesn't just magically fall on your lap. Like, yes,
yeah.
it just so happened that like I came across this link for whatever it was, like an event. But I could have
Yeah.
so easily decided not to buy it, or I could have just like kept
Yeah.
scrolling.
Or missed that post or like
Yeah.
anything. And then I guess then it goes into like a naysayer would say, or I guess we're the naysayers, but a naysayer to what we're saying would say, well, the reason like, well, that's like more proof that it works because you put it on your vision board, you
Yeah.
like manifested it. And so you didn't miss it because you manifested it and therefore you met this celebrity or whatever. And then it goes back to like this larger thing of like what's meant for you will
Yeah.
always come for you. Like, you know, like everything happens for a reason or like everything works out in the end. And I don't know, like it's something that I struggle with, like that I just personally think about a lot and struggle with because when things are like out of your control or like there are situations happening where it's not like a pleasant experience, like it's very comforting to be like it's okay, like it's all part of the plan, like
Mhm.
everything happens for a reason, it's going to work out because if it's meant to be it would, and if it's not then it's not. But I don't know, like I'm also conflicted with being like there are just things that you do and steps that you take and decisions you make every day that lead you towards specific steps and goals. It doesn't necessarily have to be this big cosmic reaction every time you take a breath.
Yeah. Yes. I'm finding, and I think you and I are feeling the same way. I'm letting go of this idea of like the ultimate plan for my life.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that life really ebbs and flows, and you have moments where things are amazing and they're really working out for you. And then you have other moments that aren't as great and, things get shitty. Like that's
Yeah.
just the reality of life.
Yeah.
And so this idea of like, this is all part of like the ultimate plan. Well, where's my say in the plan? Like, where's my power in my own plan? Because if I just leave it up to fate, you know, is this really like where I want to be? And like, what's my contribution to my own life?
Yeah, I think this is like a very philosophical question that I actually had a conversation about with I don't even remember with who, but a little while ago, and it was the idea of like, and it kind of goes back to like the power of positive thinking or manifesting versus not, because if you believe in fate, right? Like if
Mhm.
you truly believe that like your destiny is sort of already like has been created for you and everything happens for a reason and everything will work out, then technically that's in opposition to something like manifesting your reality. Because it's the idea that you, well, I can't like manifest something that's not meant for me. So
Right.
then, like, so then they're in opposition because you can't, on one hand, believe in like things already being set out for you. And so you will always get that outcome. And at the same time believe, but I can think things into reality.
Right.
And so it's really hard because right? Because but then it also becomes difficult because then you're like juxtaposing free will with destiny. So are you saying that then you as a human being don't have free will because you believe in this fate and destiny and everything always happens for a reason, which means no matter what choices you make, you're always going to end up in the same thing because that is your destiny? Or then do you believe in like free will of like I'm a free agent in my life and therefore the decisions I make are what are going to create outcomes in my life. Do you know what I mean? it's like too
I'm
much.
overwhelmed. What is this conversation? My head hurts.
I know. And I like think about this. I literally think about this all the time because which is why I was saying I like have had this conversation recently, because if we're talking about like the power of positive thinking, you essentially can manifest anything in your life, but that's not possible. I know.
I want to give it a 0.
I'm pregnant. Knew it. That's the exact audio. So I give you a 1. That's us to the secret. I want to give it a 0, but that's not possible. So I give you a 1 at Rhonda Vines or whatever her name is.
No. I think those are very, very interesting questions. They're very weighted questions. Like, I don't think you'll ever know.
I'm not about to unpack it in this episode.
Like, also, while you were explaining this, I was like, there had to have been a better time for us to switch to this new camera view, because you can see the confusion on my face, or like the calculation that I'm trying so hard. I'm like, I'm following. I know what she's saying.
But like, do you get it? Like, do you know what I mean?
No, I do. It is a direct contradiction of one another.
But it's weird because it's sold as like the same thing.
Yes, it's like packaged together. I like to think of my own. I made my own secret, and here it is. It's not a secret. Okay, this is Nadine's secret. It's free. You don't have to pay a dime unless you want to pay. I won't reject your money. Will include my. I don't have Venmo. I will create one. You can send me your money. I think that fate will bring opportunities your way, but I think it's up to you to choose what path you want to take. So I really think of like a mix. Why?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I for me that's what makes the most sense in my head. Like, I do think that there are things that happen. I don't think everything happens for a reason. I think some things happen for a reason. Like, I think, for example, the people you meet in your life, I believe that you've met them in a past life, or you've met them before, or there's a reason as to why they're there, like they come with a purpose, which is kind of in line with this idea of like, like the law of attraction in a way, but also just more so like things happening out of your control.
Yeah.
And then I think you get to decide who you really want to keep, if to follow along with the like example of relationships.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's really hard. And I think that's why something like The Secret or The Power of Positive Thinking provides so much comfort, because you really feel like a sense of control. Like, whether you believe in free will or you believe in a destiny like / fate, it somehow satisfies the security or comfort in both situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, I obviously I have no answers. I only have questions. And the way that I think about it is similar, where I'm like, at the end of the day, like, the decisions are yours. Like, the decisions you make in your everyday life, like, they are yours, and those decisions will lead to outcomes, good or bad, or neutral, or whatever it might be. But I think in some ways do believe that like some things happen for a reason, like, and maybe that's just you trying, like, that's just me or a person trying to make sense of the world around them, where they're like, oh, I went through this really hard thing because it had to teach me X.
Yeah.
But again, like, those are things that I grapple with. Like, for example, like, over the summer, or over the last summer, I mean, over centuries now, like, Black people have died. This like really took a turn, but
I was like, I was laughing. I'm like, oh, we're serious. Oh no.
I'm dead. I know, because I really took a turn. But like think about how like when Black people specifically die,
Yeah.
they're like, this death was not in vain because, he or she or they died for like justice. And you're like,
Yeah.
but did that and that's why like sometimes I like struggle with this idea of like, like why or what was the sense of this or what was the reasoning behind this, because but then maybe it's like I said, it's just a way for people to make sense of things that happen around them, and like a sense of like feeling like bad things don't happen for no reason. There's always good that comes out of bad, which I don't always think is not the case. Like I do think that that's often the case. Like you do learn things when you go through bad things that
Yeah.
lead you to make better decisions in the future.
Totally. Yeah, like I feel
But
like
no.
that's growth. I feel like without that, we would just be making the same mistakes over and over again, like
Yeah.
you have to at some point learn whether that was an event that you had control over, or if it was something that, happened, it happened to happen to you,
Yeah.
I like
Yeah. I don't know.
it is I think about us, speaking of manifesting stories, even though we just spent the last like 20ish minutes talking shit, the way we manifested ourselves to like the after party for that concert,
I'm
that
done.
is like perfection. But that's also because we worked for it.
We put in work.
We put
We
in
were like,
work.
listen, I am not here to play.
No,
Well, I am here to play.
I am. We are.
I actually am here to play, but I'm not here to not get what I want.
But that goes back to what you said before, which is like if you have a goal in your mind, at some point, subconsciously, you're going to make steps to achieve it. Like it's
Yeah.
almost like just your eyes are on the prize and you don't want to look anywhere else.
Yeah. Exactly. And so then you like take steps to make it happen. And then you're like, oh, I manifested it. And I feel like manifestation is like maybe like I don't know what the word is. Maybe it's like a fancier or a more spiritual word to describe you working towards something. And
Yeah.
then like setting a goal and then working towards it, whether it's through like reinforcement where
Mhm.
you're like, oh, I want to be successful, and you constantly think about that, and so you quote manifest it because you just are constantly thinking about it, and so you make decisions driven by that desire.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's just so hard with like the power of positive thinking, because it's also like you like touched upon how it's like toxic positivity,
Yeah.
but it also in a way like denies like the human experience, because like obviously you cannot have positive thoughts forever all the time, and like it's also human to like feel emotions and
Yeah.
to deal with said emotions and to have anxieties around things and to worry about things. But if I worry about some, I don't know, whatever happening, if I worry like, oh my God, I don't know, like a spaceship is going to crash into my house and we're all going to die, like it doesn't make it any more true.
Yeah.
You know, obviously more legitimate worries are like valid and like you have to go through it. But I find that it also like, because one of the big things in The Secret is that they always say like the universe doesn't know positive or negative. They just know like a thing. So you can manifest like negativity and all it knows is like that feeling, or
Mhm.
you can manifest like positivity. So like it doesn't know if you're saying like an example of this, which they literally give in the movie, is like a girl like wakes up late. And so she's like really mad and like stressed that she woke up late. Do you remember this? Because it's so dumb. And she's like running around and like it basically like makes the chain reaction that she woke up late and so she's mad. So she's like out of toothpaste. So she like stubs her toe. So then she's like stuck in traffic. So then she's like late to work. And I was like, how are these things related? Like, no offense, Rhonda Byrne. I'm just wondering, how are they related? But But like obviously you're gonna be stressed in those situations if you wake up late, run
Yeah.
out of toothpaste, stub your toe, and get stuck in traffic.
That sounds like a shit morning, to be honest. I'd be
Yeah.
stressed.
And a regular person is just gonna be like, oh my God, I'm so annoyed. They're not gonna be
Yeah.
manifesting more bad things to happen to them throughout the day.
I also think like what's a positive thought without a negative? You know, like how would you have a
Yeah,
positive thought if
absolutely.
you didn't have negative ones to begin with? Like I
No,
don't know
that's
if that
such a
makes
good
any
point.
sense. I sound like I'm talking like the ends of a battery. I'm like, what? How would you have
No,
that?
but it's true. How do you know something is good if you don't have a bad to measure it against and vice versa?
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of what they I think it's interesting because they talk about this separately, but not necessarily together. They talk a lot about obviously like don't think negatively in simple words, but they also talk a lot about like if you want something, think it and let it go. And so why don't they apply the same thought process to when someone is thinking negatively or
Yeah.
is having like a negative moment? Like take a deep breath, let it go, like accept it and then let it go. Like shouldn't that just be a universal way of thinking?
And then I feel like though that is like a much healthier way to deal with these negative
Yeah. Yeah,
thoughts or
accept
feelings
it
or
for what it
whatever
is. Yeah, accept it for what it is, and then
and let it go.
gonna move forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't even have to be like I don't know what it is about the words move on, but I find that they can be very I don't know, like defensive in
Yeah.
a way. The words just like you need to move on from this. So I always like the words like move forward instead.
Yeah.
And so I find it's more maybe like proactive or efficient, but
Yeah.
if I woke up in a bad mood, was late for work, stubbed my toe, had no toothpaste, and like was stuck in traffic, I probably would just take a second, take a deep breath, accept that this is not the best start to my morning, and then let it go.
Yeah. Let it go. I think too, like the idea of like moving on versus like moving forward is moving on kind of for me like implies like you just let it like you just like leave it and you're like going. You're like this
Yeah.
situation happened. I'm leaving it and I'm going. But like
Yeah.
there's a difference between that and saying moving forward, which I feel like you let it go because it wasn't the outcome you wanted. You learn what you can, you take what you can, and then you move forward in like a better equipped way.
100%. Yeah, you take exactly.
And
You take what you've learned with you.
yeah. And it doesn't mean that you're not like sad about it or whatever, but like the idea is that you can be sad about it. And if you're sad, it doesn't mean that you're just going to continuously beget more sadness because you're sad
Yeah. Yeah.
or you think sad things. But I don't know. I always like it's hard because in some ways like I just think that the literal way like the how literally they put it kind of doesn't make sense, but like it does make sense in other things. Like if you constantly have like a positive outlook on life, like, because you know how people say like positivity attracts more positivity, or like if you're a negative person, every situation will be negative.
Yeah.
But then again, that's like something that's like, again, you like a free will, like you have a choice to be positive or to be negative towards something. It's not this thing that you have brought upon yourself that you like, like, you know what I mean? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, we shouldn't be shaming people for the
Yeah.
negative events that happen into their lives and blame it on them for manifesting it, quote unquote.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I always like, as I've mentioned so many times, like struggle with this because I think I've learned so much about it and like thought more critically about it. And so I've
Yeah.
changed my opinion on what it is. But at the same time, like I hold on to like an idea of like you can create the life you want and you know, that sort of stuff.
But I think that's completely
That's all.
fair. I think it has to do a lot with like I think about our episode but when we did talk about this, the power of positive thinking was what it was called. And we were
Yeah.
probably like 23. Or is that too intense of a jump? Maybe like
Where
24, 25.
okay.
I don't know why I'm getting lost in like our ages, but the whole point of this is that, like, let's say it was definitely a pre-pandemic time. And over the course of these last 2 years alone, we've just grown so much as people. And let alone the fact that we're now moving into like our later 20s, and we now have a better idea of how to understand our emotions and like how to respond to certain situations, that I think we don't really lean on things like The Secret as much, whereas I think in the past it was like a
Yeah.
crutch and a
Yeah.
substitute for us
Totally.
actually unpacking the life events that were going on.
And coming to terms with those events.
Yeah,
Like really just accepting and being like, okay,
sitting
and
with
I'm
it.
coming to terms with it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not trying to like figure it out, not trying to like like
no,
shape it into something it's not, just really being like, okay,
this is what's happening, and then
okay.
move forward. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I think it's, no one can tell you like what something like that should mean. Like, you
Yeah.
have the power to make your own definition of it however you like, instead of it being
Yeah.
spoon-fed to you by someone in a very privileged position.
Yeah.
We're not comparing
Yeah.
apples to apples here.
Absolutely not. I think that's the other thing too. Like I think a big part of why people talk about like The Secret working is because they don't see like all of the building blocks that have already been set up for them to succeed.
Yeah,
So they'll be like, like I don't want to like call anybody out, and it's never to discredit the hard work that they've put into
no,
achieving these things, but like a lot of the time, like I'll see these, for example, influencers or whatever, and they'll be like, oh my god, like I really wanted to like have my own business and this and that, and I'm like, okay, well, you came from class, you came from like wealth, like you didn't have to worry about those things, or you have like race privilege or any of those other things. And so I find too that like it's, again, not to discredit the hard work that's being done, but it's a lot easier to create the life that you want or like manifest the life that you want when you don't have those other responsibilities to think about, or the like intersectionality of those oppressions kind of working against you, or you
yep,
know like another thing that you have to sort of overcome.
yep.
But it comes back to this thing, like, have you seen this meme, or like it's not even a meme, it's like an inspirational quote where it's like, you have the same 24 hours in a day as Beyonce.
No, but I remember us talking about this on the podcast.
And I'm like, but you don't. Like if you literally don't. First of all, if you have to take public transport, you don't have the same 24 hours in a
Yeah,
day as Beyonce. If you don't have a nanny, you don't have the same 24 hours in a day as Beyonce. If you don't have a cook, if you don't have a trainer, if you don't have anything, and it doesn't even have to be as Beyonce. It can be as anybody who is in like a more privileged position, or somebody who is just in a different position as you. Like the point
yeah,
is that everybody doesn't have the same 24 hours in a day. So by saying something like anybody can manifest anything in their life because of The Secret and because of the power of positive thinking, it's actually like quite, I don't know, like it's denying somebody's lived experience, but
yeah,
it is also very demoralizing, because if you're somebody who maybe isn't taking the time to think about it so deeply, and you're like, okay, I'm going to follow The Secret and do da da da, and then it doesn't happen, you're like, oh, well, it happened for this person, why not me?
yeah. We're not all starting the race on the same starting point.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not all running the same race.
We're not running the
We're
same
not
race.
even all running.
We're not even in a race. Like, but the point
Yeah.
is that like
There you go.
we're all on this path at different points. Like, and it's exactly what you said about complete dismissal of everyone's
Yes.
individual experiences. It's like, I want to say it's I don't know if it's like whitewashing, but it's like, it's just Trini, I was gonna say it's blanching.
It is. It is blanching, but it doesn't taste as good.
I keep saying, for context for anyone who's listening, I keep replacing bleaching with blanching, which is not the same thing at all.
Like so different.
It's so different. So anyway, that was a side note. This is definitely not blanching. Like, we're not talking about blanching racism.
Yeah. It's true.